Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies lost on Wednesday night to the Miami Heat. They lost 108-102, and they are now 1-7 on the season. In this episode, I will, of course, break down everything that happened in the game and talk about the player performances. Before I get there, just a reminder, a specific alert to the significant number of you who live in the Middle Tennessee area. For the Grizzlies' next game, I'm going to be hosting a Grizzlies watch party in Nashville. So if you're anywhere near Nashville, come on down to Noble's Beer Hall. We will be watching the Grizzlies and Jazz play in what is an in-season tournament game. I think it's a good chance for the Grizzlies to win a basketball game. So, hey, come down to Noble's Beer Hall. The game's at 7. I will be there. I will be giving away lots and lots of Grizzlies prizes. We have a lot of cool giveaways. You can hang out with other Grizzlies fans. You can hang out with me and watch the Grizzlies take on the Jazz. Don't miss the watch party. This is Friday, November 10th, 7 p.m. at Noble's Beer Hall. All right. The Grizzlies played a ragged game against the Miami Heat, a team that has not been having a great regular season so far either. This was, I would say, a typical matchup for what you might expect between the Grizzlies and the Heat. A lot of defense. The offense was a struggle, but the Heat did seem to be, I think, head and shoulders above the Grizzlies, even though this game got close a lot of times. To me, it felt like the Heat were the superior team, and the game was never in doubt. They would get up by 10. The Grizzlies would scratch and claw, get within 2, tie it up, even took the lead. But then the Heat would just go back to Bam Adebayo, who was for some reason wide open for a 15-foot jumper the entire game. Or like Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry in his 18th season nearly got a triple-double. Kyle Lowry was destroying us. Like, they didn't even need Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler had a good first half, just chilled in the second half. And now the Grizzlies, of course, 1-7. They have lost 4 straight home games. They lost 6 home games the entire 2022-2023 season. Now they've already lost 4. This is their worst home start and their worst home losing streak since the 2020-2021 season. They randomly also that year lost their first 5 home games. So as we as Grizzlies fans try to process what's happening with the season, we've been competitive in several of the games, but 1-7 is 1-7. And one thing that, like, if I want to be optimistic, I'm trying to console myself with the fact that the Grizzlies have actually started slow several times under Taylor Jenkins. I don't know if this is an actual pattern. This might just be me hunting for what might be a pattern, but like, all right, last year wasn't necessarily a super slow start. They began the year 4-3, but their defense was terrible at the beginning of the year. You know, they end up winning 51 games. They end up being the 2 seed. So 4-3 is not really like that great of a start. But the year before, the 56 win season, I'd like to remind you, refresh your memory, the Grizzlies started 9-10. Remember, they got blown out by the Atlanta Hawks the day after Thanksgiving. Ja Morant got hurt, and we were like, what is going on? Everything is falling apart. I thought we're going to be good. And then from that point forward, they took off and were amazing. So last season, they started 4-3. The year before that, they started 9-10. The year before that, that's the 2020-2021 season where they lost their first 5 home games. They started that season 2-6. They ended up going 38-34 in that shortened season. The year before that, now we're talking about Taylor Jenkins' first year, Ja Morant's first year. They were supposed to be bad, so maybe it's not applicable. But that year, they started 1-5, also 2-7. So as I'm grasping for hope, maybe I'm like, hey guys, this is typical. We normally maybe trust our depth early on in the season and things don't look super good, but that investment we're making in players in October and November, we're going to reap the benefits of that later in the season. Now, I don't know if that's the situation this year because it certainly feels dire right now. And the way the Grizzlies are losing, which is basically not being good at anything, is particularly concerning. Like the offense, it's been bad. Every game, basically been bad. They're last in the NBA in offensive rating. They haven't scored more than 113 points in any of their 8 games. The last 8-game streak where they failed to score over 113 points in a game happened in the season before Taylor Jenkins got here, back when J.B. Bickerstaff was the coach, when they were tanking. I mean, that team was not a good offensive team either. So the offense not working. They're shooting a lot of three-pointers. Like they didn't take that many against the Heat on Wednesday. They took 37. They're averaging 43-point attempts per game so far. That is the 6th most in the NBA. Against the Heat, they hit 11, which is 29.7%. For this season, they're making 32% of their threes. That is 25th in the NBA. So they're taking the 6th most three-pointers per game. They're shooting the 6th worst on three-point percentage. They're also, oh, by the way, not drawing fouls. They're not getting to the foul line. They are 25th in free throws attempted per game. Also, they just happen to be below average at making their free throws. They're also fouling a lot, okay? They're putting their opponents on the foul line. Right now, the Grizzlies are 2nd in fouls committed per game. So like all these things, and of course, when you're 1-7, all the stats are going to be bad. But they're particularly uniquely bad, I think. And maybe the offense will come together eventually. Like this game, the starting lineup couldn't make a shot. Zaire Williams was 1 for 9. More on him in a bit. He missed all 5 of his three-point attempts. Desmond Bane was 4 for 16 from the field, only 2 out of 8 on three-pointers. Now, Desmond Bane missed most of his shots. You could say he had a bad shooting night. I'm going to now argue semantics. Yeah, he did have a bad shooting night in some sense, but he didn't have a bad shooting night in the sense that like he wasn't missing makeable shots. On his open shots, I think he shot a pretty good percentage. The problem, he could not get open. The Heat were destroying him. Jimmy Butler was locking him up. There was a help defender always. The Heat could care less if Zaire Williams shot the ball. Of course, Bismack Biyombo is not going to provide any spacing. If Marcus Smart's not making his shot, well, guess what? They were selling out and they were capably stopping Desmond Bane. Marcus Smart had a brutal offensive game. Missed all 3 of his three-point attempts. Was 4 for 14 overall from the field. For this season, Marcus Smart down to 29% on three-pointers. The bad news is that's not very far off his career averages of making 32% of his threes. Like Jaren provided most of the points. Jaren scored 28. Jaren took it at Bam pretty well, but unfortunately, Bam had a much better game. Bam was clearly a stronger player than Jaren in this matchup. Bam had 30 points, got to the line 16 times. You can be frustrated, and it's natural to be frustrated with some of the foul calls, but I don't think they're that really out of pocket. I think, yeah, we fouled Bam all the time. We just kept fouling Bam. There weren't many situations. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a single foul call that resulted in free throws where I was outraged. It was just like, yep, well, we fouled him. So Bam has 30 points and 11 rebounds. I don't know what we were doing. Maybe it was confusion with Bismack Biyombo being new to the team. It did seem like we were just sagging off of him and letting him shoot mid-rangers Like Brevin Knight was losing his mind on the broadcast. He's like, that's Bam's game. Yeah, it's Bam's game. I know we keep focusing on helping off of the three-point shooting and like over helping and allowing above the break threes. Like that's a strategic decision. It didn't necessarily destroy the Grizzlies. The Heat, they only made 11 three-pointers, 11 out of 28. So a much better percentage for the Heat. But this game was lost for the Grizzlies on the offensive end. Or if you want to credit Miami's defense won the game. I mean, the Grizzlies, 39% from the field. The starting lineup, again, just a brutality. The first half numbers, the first half, if you look at the best offensive players, basically the starting lineup plus Santi Aldama. Luke Kennard. All right, Luke Kennard made 3 threes in the first quarter. He was on again. Luke Kennard finished with 13 points, made 4 threes. But everybody else, you're looking for offense, and Bane makes 1 shot in the first half. He's 1 for 7. Marcus Smart was also 1 for 7. Jaren was 2 for 7. That's your 3 best players. 4 for 21 from the field. When you throw in Zaire and Santi combining to go 0 for 9 from the first half from the field, you're lucky to be in the game. You can credit their effort, and you can credit the Grizzlies' own defense. One of the only things they're doing moderately well. I think right now they're like 11th in defensive rating. But you couldn't make shots. A lot of it, I credit Miami's defense. Miami famously plays a lot of zone. The Grizzlies could not destroy the zone. Even though Jacob Gilyard tried. Shout out Jacob Gilyard. Made a career-high 2 field goal attempts. Both of them 3-pointers. Jacob finishes with a career-high 6 points. Jacob played well. I don't want to make fun. I'm not a big believer in Jacob Gilyard as being a long-term NBA player or an answer for the Grizzlies. But at least when Jacob was on the court, and a lot of that was influenced by him making those 2 zone-busting threes, he at least was setting guys up. He at least was penetrating and getting by guys and making the defense move and react and leading to slightly easier shots. Like Marcus Smart does some of that. Again, 7 assists. But the Grizzlies are dying for creation, for offensive creation. And going back to the alarm bells going off for this Grizzlies season, there's not shot creation on the team. Miami, who has athletic guys and has Jimmy Butler and also Bam Adebayo, Bam can guard Jaren, Jimmy can guard Desmond, and then when you have the Haywood Highsmiths of the world sagging off of Zaire and sending help, you have Kyle Lowry. He doesn't mind if he leaves Marcus Smart. He's going to go set up for a charge. He's going to go double team Des when he drives. And there's not enough offensive potency up and down this roster, and there's no creation. There's no dribble creation. Luke can make threes, and teams at least have to guard him. But Luke is not a dribble creator. He's not going to create off the pass. He's going to swing it to an open guy. He's going to find an open guy, but he's not going to do it because he puts the defense in a bad spot by beating his man off the dribble. And now we go back to the roster construction, or the fact that there's no plan B. There's no break glass in case of emergency thing on this roster. You knew Ja was out for 25 games. I believed, and I guess the team believed, Marcus Smart's going to be enough. But they had to know, Marcus Smart is going to miss some games. He hasn't yet. Okay, Marcus Smart has played every game. And so my concern was always, well, what happens when Marcus Smart doesn't play? Or what happens when Marcus Smart's off the court? And maybe their thought was Derrick Rose is going to step up and play, but I don't think that was a reasonable expectation, that Derrick Rose would always be available and always be good. Right now, we got an injury update on Derrick Rose. He's week to week. 1 week ago, they said he'd be reevaluated in a week. A week has passed. Now he's week to week. So Derrick Rose is not available. That was a likely outcome. So what's your plan B? If you need ball handling, you need passing, you need playmaking, what's your plan B? It's Jacob Gilyard. And maybe you can play Jacob Gilyard more? But Jacob Gilyard, as well as he played on Wednesday night, he's not ever going to have an advantage over his opponent. He's not going to be better than his opponent. Right? And like on the wing, the creation on the wing. So like a big part of this game and like some of my sadness for this game is like Zaire Williams was so bad. He had a couple of okay defensive moments in the second quarter. He had a great steal at the start of the third quarter where he got a breakaway dunk. But like that was his one made field goal. 1 for 9, 2 points in 21 minutes. And now we've got a few games in a row of like, oh wait, Zaire Williams doesn't look good again. And the reason it's so concerning is maybe it's just confirmation bias, or this is the Zaire I'm familiar with. As good as he looked in the preseason, the confidence he played with, the playmaking he was providing. We saw it in the preseason. We saw it early in the regular season, but now it's kind of dissipated and it's like, wait, this is what I'm used to seeing from Zaire. There's a much larger sample size of Zaire playing like this than playing like he did in the first few games. And so like if Zaire's off and say like Konchar's hurt and like what was your plan B? If you went into the season saying, hey, we're going to figure out who's good among Zaire and Roddy and LaRavia and Vince Williams, and if that doesn't work, we're going to play just Konchar again. All right, what if those guys don't get better? What if they're all the same players they've always been? What's your plan B? I don't know. Is it just play Kennard and Smart and Bane more minutes? Ride those guys hard? Is it like play Santi Aldama more? I mean, Santi was a bright spot in this game. Santi scored 10 points in the second half. He capped off this Grizzlies furious rally. So maybe it was just the Heat playing with their food. Like, I never felt like the Grizzlies were winning this game. But like the Heat were up 11 in the last 2 minutes, and the Grizzlies made it a game. The Grizzlies got to the line a couple times as the Heat missed some three-pointers. They were running the clock down. Did a good job of that, but then missed some threes. And then finally, there were a couple of turnovers. And then one where they forced a live ball turnover, and Santi comes down, drills a three, cuts it to a 3-point game with 35.5 seconds left. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, this is a single possession game, and we don't have to foul. Of course, the most crucial defensive possession, it was kind of weird, where like the Heat had not scored in a minute and a half, and we go into scramble mode where we send a double team out to Kyle Lowry near midcourt. And that, of course, puts us in kind of a scramble where they're swinging the ball around and it ends up in Jaime Jaquez's hands in the corner for a wide open corner three. He drills it, ices the game. It seems strange to allow that. Like it seemed like you could have played straight up a little bit longer. I mean, maybe there's data that getting the opponent to start moving the ball around is a better option in that situation. It forces maybe a more rushed shot. It gives you a better chance of getting the ball back. I mean, maybe even if you say, all right, would you live with a Jaquez three from the corner? Maybe you would. But he makes it and the Grizzlies lose. And now it's just like, we got to start winning some games. We got to win some games. We're not close to Ja Morant's return. And I think you have to face the fact that like the season might be kind of over when Ja Morant comes back. I mean, I know we only have to hit the 10th seed to have a puncher's chance in the play-in, but like 1-7, and the teams you thought were going to be bad are picking up 3 wins, 4 wins. There's other teams you think are going to be good. Teams I already thought were better than me. Well, they're losing too. So like, what if they find their footing? What if the Lakers start winning? What if the Suns start putting it together? It's a hard ask. Jaren's offensive game. He continues providing the scoring punch. This was the 3rd straight game where Jaren has had 25 points or more. It's the 2nd longest streak of his career. He blocked 1 shot, so he's now blocked a shot in 21 straight games. That is the 2nd longest streak of his career. His career long streak is 26. It's the longest active streak in the NBA right now. By the way, reminder, the franchise record for most consecutive games with a blocked shot is held by Roy Rogers, the basketball player, who did it for 31 straight games. Jaren also got 2 assists again. So that's now 11 straight regular season games where he's gotten 2 or more assists. By far, the best streak of his career. Jaren scored 19 of his points in the second half. So, like, I mean, Jaren's playing pretty well. Desmond had an off night, but, like, that goes to more of my worries. Like, Jaren's playing well. Desmond's playing well, but, like, he can't get open. Marcus had been playing well. This was a tough game for him. He continues turning the basketball over. He got a lot of, I don't know, Dylan Brooks Memorial, what are you doing shots in this one? Seemed like several contested mid-rangers from Marcus. But, I mean, Marcus is kind of a trick-or-treat player, much like Tony Allen was. So I guess we have to keep riding Marcus Smart. Desmond Bane's final numbers was 15 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 2 out of 8 on 3-pointers. Like I said, those 8 3-point attempts meant that Desmond passed O.J. Mayo in the all-time Grizzlies franchise leaderboard for 3-point attempts. Desmond Bane now has the 7th most 3-point attempts in Grizzlies franchise history. Bismack Biyombo got the start again as Xavier Tillman missed another game. I mean, Bismack, he's a rebounder. I love it. 6 offensive boards, finished with 10, had 9 points, also had 1 steal. I mean, Bismack is Bismack. He rebounds hard. Like, the Grizzlies are defensively rebounding pretty well. Offensive rebounding? No, bad. The spacing Bismack provided, 0. Like, yeah, he's good at the pick and roll game. He's good at hanging out in the dunker spot. But, like, again, maybe this leads to a lineup change for the starting lineup because, like, if you're not going to guard Zaire, if Marcus isn't making shots and you don't have to guard Bismack, well, that applies probably way too much pressure on Desmond and Jaren. Let's take a quick break right now, though, and I'll come back with hopefully some encouraging words, but don't cross your fingers. Underdog Fantasy is a unique way to play fantasy sports. I've been talking about it for a while on these episodes. Now that the NBA season has started, I'm playing Underdog Fantasy every single day. I do either head-to-head daily fantasy drafts, or I've been joining these private drafts of 3 or 6 people that are exclusively my listeners. I've been playing against my Patreon supporters, so that is a super fun way for me to continue to watch the NBA and play some small stakes fantasy basketball against my friends. If you want to try it out, it's a great time to sign up because right now, if you use promo code FBBF, that's FBBF as in Fast Break Breakfast. If you use that promo code, they will match your opening deposit up to $500. So if you want to play fantasy sports for cash, you want to do it against your friends, you can do all of that at Underdog Fantasy. Try it out. Use the link in this episode's description to sign up or use that promo code FBBF. All right, a few more things to go over in this episode. One thing the Grizzlies are doing pretty well so far is forcing turnovers. They have been able to turn their opponents over. Unfortunately, they're also turning the ball over themselves quite a bit. But maybe once the 3-pointers start going in, that then forcing turnovers will be like a calling card, something they can hang their hat on. The question as to whether or not the 3-pointers will start going in, I still think that's concerning. Like, we expect Desmond Bane's 3-point percentage to go up. We think there's going to be some positive regression there. But the 3-pointers that Desmond Bane is having to take are so hard. They're so hard. He's not open, man. So, like, I don't think they're generating that good of looks for Desmond. And maybe there will be a tweak lineup-wise. Like, I don't know how long you try to balance investing in Zaire Williams and believing in Zaire Williams and trying to get him to play with confidence versus being like, man, we got to juice the lineup. Whether that's Kennard, as I guess a wing, 3, whatever you want to call him. It's going to be Smart, Bane, and Kennard at the same time. I think it might be time to try that. I think maybe also try more Aldama minutes. Like, they closed this game with, I think, their best offensive 5-man unit, which was Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama, and Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, the trade-off, of course, there is you're going to lose out defensively, I think, and you're going to lose out on rebounding. But I think you're probably going to need to lean on that even more. I don't know if they'll shake up the starting lineup. I do think Xavier Tillman will help. I think adding Xavier Tillman in, I know he's not an offensive player, but like he's once again another pretty good passer. He will, I think, just provide a tiny bit of spacing. He also, I mean, he's better than Kenneth Lofton Jr. So Kenneth Lofton Jr. played in this game. He played just 5 minutes. He unfortunately was not the zone buster the team needed. He did have one really nice, strong move where we went past Drew Smith for a dunk. But like so far this year, very small sample size, of course, the Grizzlies have been unable to score basically when Kenneth Lofton Jr. is on the court. And we assume that would be the magic touch that Kenneth Lofton Jr. would have, is he'd be instant offense. So far, that has not been the case. But like going back to Zaire this season, he's played over 200 minutes and the Grizzlies have a 99 offensive rating with Zaire Williams on the court, which is just putrid. Not all Zaire's fault. The whole team is bad at offense. Again, 30th in offensive rating in the NBA for the Grizzlies, but maybe there are more offensive options you can do because, again, at least you have to guard Luke Kennard. They're going to stick tight to Luke Kennard. And Santi, maybe Santi can provide some of that needed offensive punch. He finished the game, by the way, with 12 points, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. It was his second game of the season. His minutes ticked up a little bit. He did also have several bad fouls. I mean, that's also been feels like a calling card. I thought getting rid of Dylan Brooks, we would foul less as a team, but like Jaren, all right, we know he fouls, but he had some bad fouls. Marcus made some bad fouls. Santi Aldama, again, I'm considering a bad foul like when you're not protecting the rim, when you're not actively trying to play defense. Like when you commit a foul, when you're trying to trick the referee, I mean, maybe there's a cost-benefit analysis there where it's going to work out for you sometimes, but like it seemed like some silly fouls from Jaren, just like leaning on Bam in the post for no reason. Silly fouls from Aldama on rebounding fouls where he's like hooking a guy and then it leads to free throws because the team's in the bonus. Those feel like mental mistakes. David Roddy, he stays in the rotation for this game. 4 points and 3 rebounds, a steal and 2 turnovers in his 13 minutes. And now the Grizzlies try to rebound again on Friday night. Watch party in Nashville. Come to Noble's Beer Hall. They're playing the Jazz. It's part of the in-season tournament. If the Grizzlies lose to the Jazz, not only will we be weeping and depressed, perhaps tearing our garments, the Grizzlies will be 1-8, but they'll also essentially be eliminated from the in-season tournament. Like you get 4 group play games, and if the Grizzlies fall to 0-2, like you're almost certainly not winning your group at that point. And also, you've played the 2 easiest teams first in your group. You've played the Trailblazers, you lost to them, and now you play the Jazz. The Jazz have lost Walker Kessler for a few weeks, so he won't be there for the Friday night game. But then you have to play the Suns and the Lakers, and so I don't know about you. I would rather keep winning in the play-in tournament or the in-season tournament. I'm never going to get that right. I'm always going to say that wrong. The names, they're too close. But, like, it would be fun. Being involved in this tournament and getting to go to Vegas, not me, the team, like going to Vegas to make like the quarterfinals, the semifinals, like that would be cool. If the Grizzlies get eliminated, there's some confusion on this among the fan base. Like if they get eliminated, you still have to play all the games and the games are still regular season games. And like, there's no downside to winning. So just, you want to win all your basketball games. But if they do lose on Friday, basically there's no chance or very small chance that they can win their group and advance. And then the schedule after this home game on Friday, like I don't want to freak you guys out, but they're going to Los Angeles. They got a back-to-back or, 2 games in LA, one on Sunday afternoon game against the Clippers, who just got James Harden. They're desperate for a win because they're 0-2 with Harden so far. Then they play the Lakers on Tuesday night. Then you got to come back to the Central Time Zone, not to come home, but to play a game at the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. So that's a 3-game road trip after Friday's game. And then you're home for one, second night of a back-to-back after a 3-game West Coast trip, playing the Celtics. That stinks, man. That schedule stinks. And then after that, you have the Houston Rockets. Our first matchup against Dylan Brooks. It's in Houston. Houston's won 4 games in a row, by the way. And then you play the Suns. And then that basically gets us to Thanksgiving. And then after Thanksgiving, Suns, Timberwolves, Jazz, Mavericks, Suns, Mavericks. The schedule's really hard after Friday. We're going to need perfect health. We're going to need, listen, Smart, Bane, Jaren, obviously. But we're going to need, Santi Aldama. You got to play every game. Luke Kennard, you got to play every game. Xavier Tillman, we need you back. Bismack Biyombo, we need you. Conchar, if you were healthy, that'd be good. Maybe at some point, Derrick Rose is going to be able to contribute. I mean, on paper, I still trust our healthy, our basically healthy 10-man rotation. There's no reason we should be at the bottom of the league. But we're certainly not a top half of the league team, even when fully healthy, even though I thought maybe we would be. I mean, preseason, I thought they would be all right, 16th best team without Ja Morant, which is a playoff level team. And then when Ja returns, final 2/3 of the season, we'll win 60 to 65% of our games. Everything will be fine. It'll be hunky-dory. Right now, we're very far from fine. But all you can do is, I guess, put your head down and keep fighting. Well, anyways, that's the whole episode for today. Remember, people in the Nashville area or Middle Tennessee area, come to Noble's Beer Hall tomorrow, Friday night, November 10th, for a Grizzlies watch party, 7 p.m. as the Grizzlies take on the Jazz. If you try out Underdog Fantasy, use that promo code FBBF. If you want to directly support the creation of these episodes, you want to get involved with my listener Slack channel, we'll do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. I really appreciate everyone who's signed up over there. Anyways, hope you guys have a great Thursday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz!